You know guys, it's a funny thing, but the most popular video on my YouTube channel is not about computers. It's about TVs. The video I made several years back about the 4 rules for buying a 4K TV, which I made when we got this TV. It's a 65-inch 4K HDR capable TV that we got from Target for about $900. It was a great Black Friday deal at the time. Since then though, I've actually worked with LG directly on a few videos. I did some coverage of their Ultra Gear ultra wide monitors, which are very nice by the way. And along the way I pointed out to them, hey guys, the most popular video on my channel is one about one of your 4K TVs. And they said, hey, do you want to check out our newest 4K TV? It's called the 65GX. It's still 65 inches and still 4K, but it has better HDR support. It is OLED and an excellent feature because we do play some video games around here. It's 120 Hz refresh rate with NVIDIA G-Sync support. Excellent! The Dark Core RGB Pro is a premium wireless gaming mouse from Corsair with a long list of features like an 18,000 dpi low-power PixArt optical sensor for maximum precision with minimal power usage, attractive 9-zone dynamic RGB backlighting, and a comfortable contoured shape with 2 interchangeable side grips included. Connect wirelessly via Corsair's sub-1 millisecond slipstream technology, via Bluetooth for convenience on the go, or wired via USB-C. Durable arm-round switches, up to 50 hours of battery life, 8 fully programmable buttons, and more, so click the sponsor link in the description for details. And although I'm very excited to get this out of the box and take a closer look, we must worry about logistics to some degree, which is I need to take my existing TV off of the wall. This also comes with a flush wall mount integrated into the box too, which is a really cool feature. I already have a wall mount though, and we want a little bit of a tilt down angle from where we have the TV mounted here. So I'm going to unmount this TV and then I'll put this one in its place once we get it out of the box. Unmounting this one might be a little bit of a challenge, but let's see if we can just do it really quick. 1, 2, there it is, beautiful. So gonna remove this VESA mount and apply it to the new TV. And Hero will continue to supervise. And now the fun part, opening the new TV. Yay. So this is like any TVs I've opened recently. Once the straps are off, you just pull this box off the top. Oh, there it is. See? The TV is on the table. Put a comforter there to provide a little bit of padding and protection. If you need to do a wall mount or something like that, you can do this on the floor as well. Just you should put down a comforter, something that gives a bit of cushion, because the TV is delicate. You don't want to mess up the screen at all. But here you can really see just how stinking flat this thing is. Most of the TVs I've worked with in the past have had some sort of protrusion back there. So the fact that they're able to get everything integrated into this chassis and have it to be so stinking thin is pretty cool. This does allow us to get a look at the I/O. You've got 3 USB inputs right there, so you could connect up some storage if you wanted to have maybe some permanent videos on there or something. Also, this is where that IR blaster plugs in if you want to control a different device, set-top box or a cable box, for example. Here are your main inputs, HDMI, 4K at 120 Hz supported via HDMI 2.0. You've also got an optical digital audio out. And this is a great feature if you're piping in your audio through one of the HDMI channels. You can use the optical digital audio out to go over to like a receiver or something else high-end for your audio. You've also got a standard 1/8 inch headphone jack back here for analog audio out, which might be useful for you as well, although probably a little bit difficult to reach if you actively plugging in and unplugging headphones. Maybe use an extension. There's the AV in for the splitter that I showed you from the accessories. There's an antenna or cable in. Then you've got a LAN port here for wired internet in order to connect the TV to the internet to take advantage of smart features and direct streaming of Netflix and other streaming services. Even with the crazy flatness of this TV, there's still a channel area over here that's dug out. So if you're plugging in cables here or here, you're meant to route them through here. There's a cable bracket. And you feed them over here, down through this bracket, and then out the bottom, and then from there you can use a cable management cover or whatever you want for your home theater setup. Also, there's a power cable. For mounting options for the wall mount, you of course have the mount that comes with the unit, which uses this bracket here on top. And this is actually a really convenient accessory to have included in the box because it allows you to completely flush mount the TV to the wall with 0 gap behind it, which gives it a very nice clean look on the wall and a part of the appeal of this gallery series version of the TV. Again, the only reason I'm not using this is because I already have a VESA mount attached to the wall and I want to be able to angle the TV down a little bit towards our couch. You do have a VESA mount. These 4 mounting holes right here are a standard 300 by 300 VESA mount, so that's what we're going to be using. And then there are some notches down here at the corners for mounting feet to it, so you can actually just set it up on a desk or a console table, for example. Although, from what we can tell, those are not included in the package. I'll be continuing to use the existing bracket that I have, and fortunately, it's already set up for a 300 by 300 VESA mount. How convenient. One of the things I like about this mount is it allows for some horizontal shifting, so if the place you can mount your bracket is not quite centered on your wall, that gives you a little bit of flexibility, which is cool. That said, it's now time to pop this back up onto the wall bracket. Let's try the same method we used to get the other one off. Oh, it's beautiful. Look at that. Look how shiny and reflective it is. It might be more reflective though, because I haven't done this yet. Okay guys, I have now spent some more time with this TV, and just to explain my video title, one of the coolest features in my opinion is the raw panel specs for the G10. 65-inch 4K and up to 120 Hz refresh rate with G-Sync and Freesync variable refresh rate compatibility. 4K 120 Hz sounds epic, but I need a new graphics card that doesn't exist yet, with HDMI 2.1 support. For now, HDMI 2.0 supports variable refresh rate gaming on this TV at 120 Hz, but only at 2560 by 1440 resolution if you also want HDR enabled. This all boils down to the bandwidth available for your video signal, and a higher resolution of 4K, a higher refresh rate of 120 Hz as opposed to 60, and increased color depth required for HDR, which goes from 8-bit color with a SDR video signal to 10-bit or 12-bit for HDR, all increase the number of bits that need to flow down that HDMI pipe from your source to the TV. Existing video sources, whether that's a game console or a 4K Blu-ray player or the graphics card from a PC, max out at HDMI 2.0 for now, or HDMI 2.0B to be specific if you're talking about NVIDIA's RTX cards, and that provides 18 gigabits per second of available bandwidth. We won't be able to send a true HDMI 2.1 signal to this TV, and we will need a new ultra high-speed HDMI cable to do it. By the way, existing HDMI cables won't work until new graphics cards launch from NVIDIA or AMD, or the next-gen consoles come out from Sony and Microsoft. Until then, we can work with trade-offs using HDMI 2.0, so I can game at 4K 120 Hz with G-Sync enabled, but not with HDR. Or I can turn HDR on, but I'll need to drop my refresh rate to 60 Hz from 120. Since I'm using my gaming/HTPC as a source, this did involve some slightly annoying settings changes to switch back and forth, but ultimately I settled on 2 potential output modes that will handle most of my needs. 4K 120 Hz without HDR for faster paced gaming, and 4K 60 Hz with HDR enabled for slower moving games like Civilization or watching TV or movies. I switch by adjusting the monitor refresh rate in Windows, which turns HDR off automatically if I switch from 60 to 120 Hz. When switching back from 120 to 60 though, I do have to toggle HDR back on manually, but that's a minor inconvenience. One other note on that HDMI 2.1 support, LG recently revealed that since they are giving priority to some of the AI functions of this TV, there will actually only be 40 gigabits per second of HDMI bandwidth available on the G10, which is not quite to spec in terms of HDMI 2.1, which is 48 gigabits per second. That extra 8 gigabits per second allows for a 12-bit source versus 10-bit in HDMI 2.1 land, but since the panel itself on the G10 is 10 bits, it can only display 10-bit color detail, so the extra data from a 12-bit source would not be used anyway, making this somewhat of a moot point, but I wanted to point it out nonetheless. Let's get into the specs and details, starting with the price and alternative OLED TV models that LG has in their 2020 lineup. Now, just FYI, I am reviewing this TV for the features that I am most interested in, which are the picture quality, the response time, the resolution and the refresh rates, and of course the gaming performance. I have limited interest in smart TV features or using the TV to access streaming services, for example. I use my HTPC for that, so I am going to mention those features, but I didn't test them out very much. But back to the price. If you want an LG OLED TV, you have the more affordable C-Series, the G-Series of gallery TVs like the one I'm showing you today, or the W-Series, which is the most expensive wallpaper displays that are super thin, like 5mm or less. And then there's also the least expensive B-Series, which simply omits the Alpha 9 Gen 3 processor. Now for all three of these series in 2020, they are on Model 10. So that GX is actually pronounced G10, as in the Roman numeral 10. For the 65-inch model, the C10 currently costs $2,500. The G10 that I have here is $3,200, and the W10 wallpaper version is $4,500. Note that the picture quality and the features are largely the same across all of these models, so the extra cost is mainly for the slimmer housing and the thinness of the unit overall. Just shy of 20 millimeters thin for the G10 and a crazy skinny 5 millimeters for that wallpaper display. So yes, this means that if you like what you see today, but you don't necessarily care as much about a thin, flush-mounted TV, you can get most of these same features and an OLED panel with the C10 or the B10. Also note that there is a smaller version, a 48-inch size, which LG claims was made especially for gamers, and which you might want to consider if you're looking for a larger format monitor, especially for gaming. That said, all of these are on the expensive side. Your budget option in the LG C10 48-inch will still cost you $1,600. Why is this TV good though? First, the inherent benefit of it being OLED. The pixels are self-lit rather than backlit. Each OLED pixel lights up, so no backlight means a thinner and more power-efficient TV with no haloing effect that can be caused by different types of backlights, and true blacks when the pixels are turned off for crazy good contrast ratio and HDR support. LG has a Cinema HDR classification that is part of the feature set of this TV, and that covers HDR10, HLG, and Dolby Vision, and the display also ships with an HGIG mode. HGIG stands for HDR Gaming Interest Group, which establishes guidelines for TVs, consoles, and game developers. This allows the game rendering engines to handle all of the HDR tone mapping, while the TV simply clips the image's highlights at its peak brightness level. HDR can be confusing with many spec standards out there, but the G10 supports pretty much all the good ones right now. One other really nice benefit of OLED, especially for a living room setup, is that it natively has much better or wider viewing angles than a typical LCD. In practice, I can confirm, yes, the picture quality is absolutely stunning on this TV, and the pure black that the TV can achieve is really impossible to match with non-OLED panels. Since most of my OLED experience, at least in me looking at an OLED panel, has been at trade shows, seeing it in my house and comparing it to the LCD display that I switched from really drives home just how nice this panel is. The G10 also sports LG's newest Alpha 9 Gen 3 processor. According to LG, whatever you're watching, the Alpha 9 recognizes it and optimizes the picture and sound for that specific content type. Now that's a nice general way of describing it, but specifically, I think the AI upscaling is the main selling point for the Alpha 9 processor. If you send a less than 4K signal to the TV, it will intelligently upscale the picture to 4K using a database of textures and other machine learning tricks that analyze the image rather than simply applying a sharpening filter. This seemed to be most effective when watching 1080 video, but it's something that you won't use very often when you have a PC connected, as you need to actually change the signal resolution to enable it. If I watch a 1080p video on YouTube, but the computer is still displaying 4K, then the upscaling is being done by the computer and not the TV. When I did force the computer to output a lower resolution signal, lower resolution videos were noticeably crisper and smoother with less upscaling artifacts when viewed on the TV. Now the Alpha 9 Gen 3 processor also handles the new AI picture mode, which helps optimize picture performance by analyzing ambient light in the room. Picture setting corrections are then made on the fly, and this is content aware for what's being displayed on the screen, so it might enable a decontouring filter to minimize the banding that you see in broad color areas with a gradient for lower resolution content, for example. Now this AI function is different from the upscaling, and you can separately control the picture enhancement, the brightness, which uses sensors in the TV to adjust based on the ambient light in your room, or there's even an auto genre selection that applies post-processing from the TV based on the type of content the TV thinks you're watching. So your TV watches the content that you're watching and then says, ooh, that's a Western. Make it look more gritty. I watched a pretty wide variety of content on the TV, from the high quality native 4K HDR stuff to lower bitrate 720p Twitch streams, and in every instance, I think the picture quality looked better than in other displays that I have here at home. Of course, I don't have any other OLED panels, so again, it's difficult to say where the panel quality improvements leave off and where that picture post-processing benefit begins. But maybe you hate picture post-processing in TVs. That's totally okay. It can add input lag while you're gaming, and for some content, it can make colors seem oversaturated or give you that classic soap opera look. Fortunately, LG has you covered here with the filmmaker picture mode, which disables all of the post-processing stuff that reviewers and gamers tend to hate. That eliminates the soap opera effect, it keeps the colors accurate to the source content, and it maintains the aspect ratio and original frame rate of the content that you're viewing. Game mode on some TVs did a similar function to this in the past, but I actually like that LG has separated this mode specifically for viewing content like movies. But if you're looking for more of a balance between seeing the content normally or natively and using some of the TV's picture capabilities, because that AI processor actually does do a pretty good job when it's implemented properly, you can go with one of the ISF calibrated picture modes. There's a Lightroom and Darkroom option, which achieves the OG video feel with a little extra to keep things from looking too flat. I did a few tests and scanned through the various picture modes. Don't use Vivid, by the way, it's way too vivid. And eventually I settled on ISF Lightroom for our setup, since the living room we have it in has white walls and is on the brighter side during the day. Of course, you could also use a color calibration tool to manually calibrate your display, but you would need that tool, which most people don't have, so that's why the out-of-the-box settings are important to consider. Now keep in mind that many of these picture modes are made for SDR content, and picture mode selection changes when you swap over to HDR or Dolby Vision mode, the options on the list. You have a simpler list, but you can still enable game mode for minimum input lag or cinema mode for movies. And then there's audio, and when it comes to the built-in speakers, they actually sound pretty decent considering what a slim housing they're in. And there's even an AI Sound Pro option that uses the Alpha 9 processor in the TV to make newsreaders' voices clearer and movie sound effects more vivid, according to LG. You can even do an AI acoustic tuning to calibrate these speakers using the remote's built-in mic, which is kind of a unique feature for a TV, and you can pair the TV with your own wireless Bluetooth speakers to create sort of an ad hoc surround sound setup, which is also a nice feature to have. Now I want to get back to gaming on this TV, but first, real quick, a mention of the TV's software and intelligent features. WebOS is LG's smart TV platform and operating system, and it has a new UI which you can use to access streaming services like Netflix and Amazon Video. It also has a sports alerts feature, so you can pick your favorite teams and get on-screen alarms for game times, game score updates, and at-a-glance highlights if sports ever happen again, I guess. LG's voice assistant allows you to talk to the remote to control basic TV functions. It's got a mic integrated there. And if you go beyond basic TV controls, it will pass your question off to Google Assistant once you set that up. It's worth noting that there is a microphone and mic button on the Magic Motion remote, but LG has also added a mic built into the TV and is passively listening to you at all times. So you can wake the TV up by saying, "Hi LG," or even connect to a console and power it on to play with the voice command. There's multiple functions that it's capable of, but it's also a mic that's on and listening at all times. So if you're worried about your TV listening to you, you can thankfully disable that in the menu settings, or you can get the C10 rather than the G10, which doesn't support those hands-free mic-based commands. Or just use your TV like I do and never connect it to the internet, and you can rest more easily, knowing that it's now probably just your smartphone that's listening to what you say all the time. Okay, back to gaming. As mentioned, the G10 supports both FreeSync and G-Sync variable refresh rate standards, although FreeSync still needs to be enabled, and that will happen later via a software update. LG says that's expected on July 13th. It also supports an auto low latency mode, ALLM, which LG claims reduces input lag times to as low as 13 milliseconds. It has a 1 millisecond rated response time, which should pretty much eliminate ghosting or smearing effects. For G-Sync compatibility, it should be noted that you need a newer GPU. It's compatible with the RTX 20 series and GTX 16 series of graphics cards. Older GPUs will not support G-Sync compatibility, so sorry GTX 1080 Ti owners, you will need to upgrade. So I did end up swapping an RTX 2080 Ti into the HTPC, and I played some games and I was impressed. You absolutely want to have game mode on for the most responsive experience and minimal input lag. And fortunately, that auto low latency mode does a pretty good job of detecting games being loaded, and it just switches to that mode automatically. The only downside here is that it pretty much always detects my PC's video signal as a game, whether I'm just in 2D desktop mode or gaming. So that auto low latency mode function is always on for the PC unless I go and manually disable it. It didn't really seem to have a negative impact on image quality though when watching video, so I just left it on. Auto low latency mode and variable refresh rate can also be used with consoles that support it, as you can see here with my Xbox One S, and this should be enabled via the next-gen consoles as well. With the Xbox, at least, you just need to go into the video modes menu to enable those settings. Now, I have recently been playing a lot of games at 240 Hz with some of the monitors I have here available, including an upcoming one from LG that I have an upcoming video on, but gaming at a really high refresh rate can add a lot to your gaming experience, whether you're just talking about the smoothness of the gameplay overall, or giving you just that little bit of an extra edge in response time, which is very helpful if, like me, your reflexes aren't what they used to be. As a result though, 60 Hz gameplay is just kind of unbearable for me. I know that's like a first world problem, but the past couple times I tried to game on our old TV in an FPS title, I just couldn't handle it for very long because we were capped at 4K 60 Hz. On the G10, however, 120 Hz with G-Sync enabled is a whole different story, especially for fast-paced games, and anecdotally, I think this TV has to have better input lag and pixel response times than my old one because I was actually doing okay while playing Overwatch. Even games that don't require twitch aiming look better and feel smoother while playing though, whether it's a racing game like Project Cars or a decades-old classic like GTA 5. Simply put, this TV is amazing for gaming thanks to its high refresh rate, low latency, and variable frame rate support, and that's not even accounting for the color depth and contrast ratio that you get inherently with an OLED panel. What's also cool here is that even that compromise I've been talking about, where you'll have to choose and pick two of three between HDR, 120 Hz, or 4K resolution, is temporary, and once HDMI 2.1 capable GPUs and consoles launch, you'll be able to enable all three. If you can afford the new consoles or the new GPUs, hopefully the RTX 3080 Ti or 3090 or whatever it's called will be able to handle 4K, 120 Hz HDR gaming. Who knows what it'll actually cost though? Potentially more than even the least expensive of these OLED panels. So there are many more things to talk about with this TV, but I think that pretty much covers my important talking points, the things that I thought were interesting to me and hopefully maybe interesting to you as well. And I must say that I am impressed. I've been telling people for quite some time that OLED is the best option for a TV panel, or especially a gaming monitor, and LG has really been the brand to bring them to market at more reasonable prices in the past couple of years. That said, there is still a premium to be paid for this technology, and that's really the main downside for me. You can get a 4K HDR TV, 65 inches or bigger, for a lot less money than this OLED costs right now, but you'll be getting a TV with LCD-based technology that requires some form of backlight. You're not going to get the same color depth, the same deep blacks, and the same natural illumination, the individually lit pixels that you get with OLED. When new graphics cards launch later this year with native HDMI 2.1 support, as opposed to whatever in-between setting I was using today, I think you're going to see a big jump in adoption of TVs like this that combine outstanding picture quality as well as gaming features for a very complete and satisfying home theater experience. I'm trying to think if there's any final things to mention. It does come with a 1-year limited parts and labor warranty, but that does not cover image retention or burn-in, which can be an issue with OLEDs, so make sure that you're using a screensaver if you're connecting to a console or a computer with a persistent on-screen UI. You should also probably get the C10 model if you don't care about this no gap, no shadow, flush wall mount system, and the extremely thin profile, because you will get the bulk of the features and picture quality that I've talked about today, and you'll save yourself about $700. I will say that the G10 gallery display screensaver that's built into the unit does make a case for this being a somewhat artful piece of technology. It displays paintings and classic art with frames that are designed to sort of blend in with the very thin bezel on the TV, and some of them really do look like a painting hanging on your wall. Otherwise, the B10 would be the most budget option as long as you can do without the AI upscaling. One final note here, these TVs all support next-gen TV, meaning they're ATSC 3.0 compatible. That's an upcoming IP-based broadcast standard that can carry internet content and services alongside traditional over-the-air broadcast signals. But anyway guys, that is all for this video. I'm going to put important links to these TVs as well as some other stuff down in the video's description, and your comments are always welcome. So let me know if you're going to be going with an OLED display for your home theater or gaming setup anytime in the near future. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. Also check out my store at paulshardware.net where you can find shirts, mugs, pint glasses, and other cool stuff to buy. Hit that thumbs up button on your way out if you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you in the next one.